So this screencast gives you the biology basics needed for you to make sense of the principles of inheritance you're studying in the genetics unit. In your genetics booklet, you'll find a useful glossary of terms. This diagram shows the chromosomes found in the human nucleus. It's called a karyotype, and this one is for a male. You can see the XY pair at the bottom right of the screen. A female would have just two X's in the same position. There are 46 chromosomes present in that karyotype, and they're arranged in 23 pairs. That's two sets of 23, and each set comes from one of our parents. So what is a chromosome? Well, chromosomes are little lengths of coiled DNA, each containing lots of little recipes or genes for the characteristics that make us what we are. Let's see how inheritance works. Imagine there's a gene. We'll give it the letter A. That decides whether you are a poser or not. Because it's a dominant form of the gene, we'll call it capital or big A. And because it's dominant, you only need to inherit one copy of the big A gene to be a poser. In order not to be a poser, but to be a shrinking violet, you need to inherit two copies of the small a variant. It's recessive. That's one from your mum and one from your dad. Let me introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Histone. Mr. and Mrs. Histone are both real posers, as you can see, and each have inherited one poser allele, the big A, and one non-poser allele, small a. Now Mr. and Mrs. Histone decide that as posers they need to start a family, and naturally, because the UK average is 1.8 children, they decide to go for 3. Now Mr. Histone has been busy making sperm in preparation for this momentous event. And because sperm can only have half the normal number of chromosomes, that's to prevent doubling up each generation, there's a 50% chance of each sperm having the poser big A allele and a 50% chance of it carrying the small a non-poser. The same applies when Mrs. Histone makes eggs each month. We call the sperms and eggs gametes, and we can put these alternative forms of the gametes into a grid like so. This grid is called a Punnett square. And so you can see that if one of Mr. Histone's big A sperm fertilizes one of his wife's big A eggs, you will get a big A child. If a big A sperm fertilizes a small a egg, you get a big A small a child. And again, if a small a sperm fertilizes a big A egg, again, big A small a. And then finally, a small a sperm could fertilize a small a egg, giving you small a small a. So, as genetics professionals, we can now inform Mr. and Mrs. Histone that there's only a 25% chance of them having non-poser offspring. There's a 50% chance of them having carrier babies just like mum and dad, with big A, small a, and a 25% chance of them having that jewel in the crown of humanity, big A, a pure breeding homozygous poser. So that's an introduction to genetics. In our following screencasts, we'll expose the rules of inheritance even further. I'll see you then.